So there was a discussion going on in the Red Jade group, and it was about the different parts of the mind, and like really getting into the kind of more subtle stuff about internal martial arts, if you will, internal qigong work, medicine kind of work, and it had to do with definitions. And I had a really interesting talk with some of the guys today, and I realized that a lot of the foundational things that I sort of think are, I take for granted. This is really my own weakness, I realize. I assume everybody sort of starts from the same base level, and has sort of like, yeah, a little bit of medicine knowledge or a little bit of this knowledge. And sometimes that assumption is wrong, right? And then I'll just confuse people. So I'm going to do a talk that I've done before for other students, but I think it should be on video. I don't think I've ever done it on video. So this is one of the different lenses, if you will, a Chinese cultural lens on how reality is sort of constructed, okay? This is sort of a Taoist point of view, if you will. So you'll see what this is about. This is a video about Jing, Qi, and Shen, and Huan and Po. Since this is the beginning of the video, don't get too bored. Jing, Qi, Shen, Huan, Po. So I'm going to make a chart. So we've got these two things. And what we're going to do here is we're just going to run a line through it. Now, let's call this line, this intersection, we're going to call that birth, okay? So that is the moment of birth, if you will. When you first see the sky is what it's called. And we're going to talk about the cycle of life from this point of view, okay? So, out here, we have something called the Ling. The Ling is the everything. It is the universe, okay? Literally every part of the universe contains a part of the Ling, right, if you will. Yes, that's the right way to put it. The Ling is a cool, oh wow, I haven't written it in Chinese in a while. It's a cool character. It's got rain clouds on the top, and it's got three mouths singing underneath it. And then it's got this character, which is awesome. This is the character for shaman. Okay, what it is it's the character for person, right? There's two of those, and they've been put on either sides of something, if you will. A shaman or a witch is somebody who can live beyond duality, live on both sides of the realm, if you will, of the universe equally. So that gets into the teaching of non-duality, which is not what we're doing today. But the shaman, the singing mouths, and the rain cloud, that comes together as when the shaman prays and does the rain dance to make the rain come, who's he talking to? That's what the Ling is. Whatever that is that he's talking to, that's it. Okay? So, on this chart, birth happens, right? Conception happens over here, actually. And the male and female, anyway, get together, and at a certain point, part of the Ling is drawn to human beings, part of the essence of the universe, the spark of life. We have kids. So now the womb takes place, right? And during these months, you've got something that people don't, unless you're into medicine, you don't see these words much. Martial artists don't see these words much. They will see these ones. So Jing, right? Qi and Shen, we always talk about the three treasures, heaven, earth, and man. The three parts of the human being, etc., etc. So then what the hell is this? So this is what's called pre-heaven over here on this side. Now pre-heaven literally means before you see the sky. Post-heaven literally means after you see the sky. Birth is the moment you see the sky. Okay? I actually had somebody tell me once that most babies are actually born, and while they're still exiting the birth canal, if they're born properly, they're going to be born face up, and their eyes will flicker open and closed before they're even completely born. They'll see the sky before they've even left their mother. So, before we're born, when we're still in the womb, if you will, the pre-heaven part of us is called Huan and Po. And then the after heaven part of us is the Jing and the Shun. So what are these things? And first of all, if you're martial arts, you're probably going, well, where's Qi? Well, Qi's the line. Qi is a character that means relationships between things. So the Jing and the Shun is the body, right? Your actual body. The Shun we'll call your actual mind for now. And then the Qi is the intersection between the two and how well they operate. If you're a martial artist, then if you train your body for a long time and you learn a lot of martial arts and you practice, then you have this thing, this interactive ability that seems kind of weird to people who haven't practiced. Okay, so what's all this stuff? So the Po, if the Jing is your body, the Po is like your genetics. So the Po is like your genetic potential before you're born. You know, you could have blonde hair or brown hair. You could have blue eyes or brown eyes. That kind of thing. You could be male or female. Those are the things that are still sort of cloudy as a potential thing from before the moment of birth. As you form and get closer to the moment of birth, your genetics get realized and you come into the world. Right? So that's your pre-heaven body. So that makes this your pre- and post-heaven mind. What does that mean? So, Hun and Shun. Hun, we're going to call, for the purposes of this exercise anyway, your true self. And the Shun, let me get mind off there. We're going to call this one your acquired self. Your acquired self takes place the moment you're born and begins. Your acquired self, your Shun, is you with all of the interactions in the universe that have taken place to you. So if you went, you could start at birth. Your culture, your country, your skin color, your language, all of that stuff already realized, right? As soon as you're born, you start that path. And then your education, everything that happens to you in your life, every single event, every causality changes your personality, changes you. It affects who you are. So you acquire that self. It's not here you're born. As we say, kids say the darndest things. Well, because until you're like 6 or 7 years old, you're just a true self. You don't have much acquired yet because you haven't been out in the world for very long. So acquired self is that one that we all have, that we mask ourselves with, maybe unconsciously, to fit into the world and, keep up the Joneses and do the things that are expected of us. The true self, well, that's a whole other situation. So how do you explain that? Your true self, so this is the story I was told, and I think it's the best story, and I like it, so I'm going to tell it again. If there's a young man who ends up doing everything he's told, born to a good family, his parents, get him all through high school, he's doing great, they tell him he should become a lawyer. Okay, that's what he does. He goes off and enters school, goes through law school, takes the bar, becomes a lawyer. Well, you should try to get to be an associate in a firm. So he starts working really hard at a firm, putting in lots of hours, starts to get recognized. A few years have passed now, right? Well, finally takes a vacation, a well-needed vacation. And he goes to Hawaii, gets out there to the North Shore, and he sees the people surfing. And he's like, wow, that looks like it's really fun. I think I should try that. So the next day he rents a surfboard and gets some lessons. And he goes out and gives it a try. And the second he steps on the ocean, he is transported away. His soul is full of bliss. He realizes so much more about this place we live in. I mean, you're interacting with the ocean. It's a pretty big thing. So he finds himself just falling in love with this, and he surfs day and night the whole rest of his vacation. He loves it, can't get enough of it. And then the vacation ends. And he thinks to himself, man, I got some money in the bank. I should just sell my car and stuff and just like live in a tent on the beach like these surfers, and eat peanut butter and surf for the rest of my life. And then his acquired self says, you should get back home. And he goes back home. So that's what everybody tends to do. But that's an example of having your true self whisper at you. or even yell at you what's really going on inside you versus what you somehow acquired from where we are. And acquiring things, it's not always good. We pick up habits and patterns from people generations dead that are still being passed down through our own parents, and we're passing them down to our own children, then to our businesses and to our students and all these other things, right? Our acquired self is the thing that we're trying to remove when we're practicing. We're trying to find our true self. We're trying to figure out what's really us. Because it's not your degree or your profession. It's not, your car. It's not who loves you or doesn't love you. It's who you really are. And when you start seeking for that, you're going to notice that your acquired self is a bunch of crap, usually, and that you can let go of a lot of stuff. And the reason people find a hard time with that, though, is because it's really frightening to look at your own issues and values and assumptions, number one. And number two, they're afraid of there not being anything left. What if I strip away all this acquired self stuff and there's nothing left? Well, that's not going to happen. You're there doing the work. So when all of that's stripped away, all that will be left is you. So then we die. And then that spark of the Ling that came in and had this mind stream experience of a true self acquiring and understanding and learning things ends up broken. And what happens out here is we go back to the Ling, because the Ling is everything. It's the entire universe, right? So where we came from, we have to go back to. This is why Asian cultures in particular, well, every culture at some point actually really believed reincarnation was a standard. Okay, it was a standard thing. Everything gets reborn. It's obvious. It's all around us. Birds die. Birds get born. People die. People get born. Right? People get hung up on this whole personality thing being reborn. But we know things are born and then they die and then that cycle continues. That's what this is showing. It's like a Taoist one. Okay. So please forgive any mistakes. I'm more of a Buddhist than a Taoist, but so that should give you an idea of a little bit of what these words mean. So your Hun is like your true self. It's like your innate being, your mind stream, as a Buddhist would call it. Your Po is your potential body, your genetics. The Jing is the body that's then created from your potential, right? This is also worked on in post-heaven by proper nutrition, proper exercise, eating, all that kind of stuff. Clean air, clean water. Shun is the acquired self. So this is this untouched, pure mind stream being educated. So this is where a lot of martial artists tend, I think, to have trouble. Not because they're not educated, but because they're not educated on like the cultural relevance of things. Or like, why is this poetry in the art? Why don't we just say punch him in the face? Or these kinds of things. Because the more deeply you understand it, the more the message comes across. There's a reason people write poetry about martial arts. And it's not just step forward and punch. Because, drag the ox cart forward means something different than step forward. Anyway, I'm ranting. I'll shut up. That's the thing. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. But consider this just like a Chinese Taoist cultural theory conversation. This is a deep way that a lot of people see the universe. And it colors the way everything works mentally. Anyway, that's it. That's the thing.